Good morning, guys. Um, this episode is going to be a little bit different. This is one that I'm just gonna kind of freeball, see where it takes us. There's a lot of things that I want to talk about, a lot of things that I want to say, but I'm just going to allow myself to kind of get them out. I've been surrounded by a lot of vultures recently, literal vultures, like the animals, not like a metaphor for people, even though that is still a thing. But I've literally, like, my house has been surrounded by vultures. Like, I've walked outside on multiple occasions, and there's literally, I'm not joking, there's been like 30 vultures at one time flying around outside. They're all in the trees back here. There's this dead tree in my backyard that they just love to be in. And I've really been looking at this as symbolism of this death and rebirth that is happening within my own psyche, within my own energy, this shift in energy that I've been experiencing, and the cyclicality of all of that. I've been allowing myself to just be, to just exist, even though I still find myself stressing in moments of wanting to be perfect and wanting to be this savior figure for the people around me. And that's hard sometimes when you just have this innate longing to save people. Captain Save-A-Ho, if you will. It hurts sometimes, especially when that rescue is not wanted, nor is it really needed. Because we all live in different realities. None of us experience our realities the same way. So the way that I view the world and the way that you view the world are going to be completely different, even if we have thoughts, ideas, ideologies, beliefs that coincide or that agree with each other. We are not always going to see eye to eye because the way that we live in our lives, the way that we are in our bodies, the way that we see ourselves and view the world are going to be innately different, and that's okay. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually how it's supposed to be. So it's just frustrating and confusing at times when I feel like I'm supposed to be more helpful than I actually need to be, or when I feel like I'm supposed to say this thing, or my dog is in the mic right now. When I feel like I'm supposed to say this thing or be this certain way or do this thing that's going to somehow shift someone else's reality or awaken them in a way that benefits me in a way, but not only benefits me, but benefits our relationship dynamic, like benefits the mutual things that we endeavor together, the mutual people that we encounter. Because as people, we should always be evolving. There should always be a change happening. There should always be this sense of rebirthing ourselves on multiple levels in multiple different ways. at least from my perspective. And again, we all live in different realities. And so if you don't believe that we should all be evolving ourselves, this might not be the episode for you. Because that is my belief, is that we should always be evolving, changing, rebirthing, dying to a version of ourselves, dying to a habit that no longer serves us, dying to a circle of friends that no longer serve us, dying to whatever it is externally that we continue to hold on to that is holding us back from understanding that we are all that is. We are the connection. We are everything. And I know this is probably starting to sound like hippie woo woo crazy, and I'm okay with that. I'm fine with being that person in your life. If I'm the only person in your life that is like that, I'm okay with that. I'm an Aquarius moon, so the weirdness can get quite weird. Like Aquarius suns are pretty weird. Aquarius moons, I feel like are weird in an eccentric kind of way that it's just like abstract. We're both weird though, so the evolution of humans is funny because we go from understanding how the world works to completely dissolving ourselves of understanding. And just to kind of give an example of that is like in the ancient times, like, when the world was first around, God created herbs, God created plants. Plants are medicine, herbs are medicine. That is like a known fact. That's like a thing that everyone will say is truth. And so we go from understanding the plants and understanding the herbs and understanding the medicine behind that to then outsourcing our power to these external sources, these people who claim to know it all, that claim to know more about our bodies than we know, more about what is happening within our bodies than we ever could. But the thing is that we live inside of our bodies every day. We live inside of our bodies every week. We know what is happening inside of our bodies innately. And you can tell that just because when something is wrong with us, we know that something is wrong. But just because we don't understand what's wrong doesn't mean that we don't know innately, intuitively, because we do. But the disconnection from our bodies and the disembodiment from ourselves is what keeps that disconnection going, is what keeps that external validation, the outsourcing of power, the, you know, seeing doctors as God almost. And I'm not saying that everybody views them that way or that, that is like the average way to view them, but that is how I see the world as it is currently. Is that instead of viewing ourselves as the innate power, as the all knowing, we view everything outside of us as knowing better for us than we could know for ourselves. And that's just not true. That's just not, it's sad to me. And not in like a judgmental way or like a shameful way, but it's sad to know that in just a little over 100 years, we've all but almost completely erased natural medicine as truth, natural medicine as healing. And we've taken on pharmaceuticals and, medications and doctor's visits as quote unquote medicine. And it is medicine to an extent, it is necessary to an extent. But before we go that route, or even when we realize that that route is not working for us, why do we continue on that hamster wheel? Why do we continue on in this direction of this isn't working, so let's try something else. This isn't working, so let's try another drug. This isn't working, so let's add more drugs on top of it. But the thing about the medical system is that they do not look at the body as a whole. I mean, if you listen to doctors, actual doctors speaking in Congress, in interviews, doctors who are theologists of truth, doctors who are in the business of telling the truth, they will tell you that they have had no training on nutrition. They have had no training on natural medicines, um, no actual information on true diet and exercise lifestyle changes. All they can tell you is, oh, you need to change your diet, or oh, you need to go on a diet, or oh, you need to lose weight, or you're going to go to this doctor for your stomach, and then you're going to go to this doctor for your knee, and you're going to go to this doctor for your elbow, and this doctor for your kidney. This doctor, can tell you about your brain, but he can't tell you anything about your heart. This doctor can tell you about your heart, but he can't tell you anything about your gut. And nobody is connecting the dots that everything affects everything in the body. And this is just brings us back to the oneness of all, like the envelopment that we are everything, we are all that is. Everything affects everything. Everything is everything. Everything is connected. And when we really truly look at the body as a whole and not these sections or parts, and not just, oh, I have a headache, so it must be something going on with that, or oh, my throat hurts, so I must just have a sore throat, or I have a lot of mucus, so I guess I must be getting sick. Instead of looking at these things as the body's messages of like, hey, something's wrong, because the body will always send us subtle, quiet messages, small symptoms that turn into larger symptoms, small symptoms that turn into disease. Disease is the body's way of letting you know that it is not at a state of ease. The body is at dis-ease. That's why it's a disease. We don't make ourselves sick. The environments that we put ourselves in contribute to the symptoms. And when the symptoms are not addressed at the root, they turn into disease, they turn into chronic illness, they turn into these things that it seems like we have no control over. But when we truly look at the root of where all of these things come from, and we could say it's emotional, we could say it's physical, we could say it's genetic, we could say it's hereditary, we could say a lot of things about illnesses, about diseases, about things that we deal with as humans that make it uncomfortable to live in our bodies. But the truth of the matter is that we almost come out of the womb disconnected. We birth in hospitals, just bringing this back to the essence of the womb. We birth in hospitals. We birth on our backs. We birth via C-sections. We birth and then cut the cord before all of the blood has been able to transfer from the placenta to the baby. We disconnect the baby from the mom immediately after birth, especially in a hospital. With home births, you get a little bit, a lot more free range with that, and you're able to more so connect with your baby and bond with your baby in different ways. But in a hospital, they almost immediately take your baby away from you, severing that mother baby connection, making it more difficult for baby to latch for breastfeeding, making it more And that's no shame to mothers who birth via C-section or in the hospital or anything like that. We all do what we know in the moment. We all do what we think is best for us. No one is out here doing things just because, you know, it seems like the fun thing to do when it comes to our children, when it comes to our bodies. Some of us probably are, but as mothers, as women, we are innately doing what we think is best at any given time. And it can be difficult to listen to new information. It can be difficult to hear a different perspective. And I understand that. But because we almost come out of the womb disconnected from ourselves, because of that disconnection from our mother, from the womb, from the placenta, the life giving source, because of our disconnection and disembodiment from that, we are then disconnected and disembodied from ourselves, from our souls, from our bodies themselves. And so as we grow up in the society that is, the way that it is now, where everyone is solely relying on external validation, on external resources, on someone to give them an answer to what's going on within themselves. That's when we run into the problems. That's when we run into the difficulties, when we run into the solutions that never seem to actually solve anything. So the medications, the quote unquote treatments that were given, birth control is another, just another facet of that, because we're given birth control for irregular cycles, quote unquote. We're given birth control for acne and PMS and cramps and all of these things that birth control was not actually created for and is not actually treating. And I feel like it can be a really hard thing for women to hear, especially women who have been on birth control for so much of their lives, to hear that it's not doing what they think it's doing. And as someone who was on birth control for 5 years, from the time I was 15 until I was 20, and I didn't know any of this at that time. No one around me knew this information. No one around me was taught this information. My mother has been on birth control since as long as I can remember, since probably right after she had me. And she's now getting into her perimenopausal years. And I did a class with her recently on perimenopause, and it was a very freeing and healing experience for my mother lineage, I feel, because I got to teach her about essentially her second puberty, because perimenopause is essentially the dawn of our second puberty. So I got to teach her about her second puberty in a way that she was not able to teach me about my first. And I don't mean that in a way to shame her or to judge her or to make her feel like she didn't do her job as a mother, because she absolutely has. But it's healing for me in my womb and the wombs of my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, my mother lineage in general. It is healing generations back through the womb lineage of us, to teach her this information, to have her understand that there is a better way, because she has been dismissed by doctors on many occasions. My mom wanted to get her tubes tied after she had me. I think she was 25, maybe getting close to 30, and asked her doctor. I remember having this conversation with her, and she was so upset about it, because she brought the conversation to her doctor, and her doctor was like, oh, a male, old white male doctor, of course, was like, but what if you meet a man and you get married and that man wants to have more kids? Or what if you want to have more kids? Like, I can't approve that surgery for you. Based on the what ifs. My mom is telling him, like, I'm one and done. I do not want any more children. like this, I'm good, like she's a teenager, like this is it for me. And the doctor refused. And even the same with the perimenopause. She was literally 40 years old going into the doctor, and before she could even get the word perimenopause out of her mouth, the doctor said she's too young for that. But because I'm a women's health specialist and because I have dedicated myself to learning everything that I possibly can about women's health, about health in general, about um, women's wellness, I am able to let her know that she was absolutely right in thinking that that's what it was. Because perimenopause can start as early as 35. And we don't actually experience menopause until around 45 to 55. So it's just. And then just the entire concept of birth control, like stopping ovulation, stopping the most important part of our cycle. If we do not ovulate, we cannot truly menstruate. And so there's so many women and girls. The girls is just what baffles me. It's just what disheartens me. The girls is what really gets me passionate. The women is also what makes me passionate, because everybody needs this information. But being a girl at 15, at 14, at 13, and being told that you're going on birth control, on the birth control pill, on the birth control patch, on the birth control shot, on whatever form of birth control you're getting put on, getting told that you're going on birth control, you might not even be thinking about having sex yet. You might not even be thinking about getting pregnant, or that that's even a possibility for you yet. But because your cycles are not regular, maybe you just started cycling, maybe you just got your first period, and your cycle doesn't show up every month, or it doesn't show up at the exact same time every month. But what we're not teaching our girls, and what we're not teaching our women, and what we're not passing down through the lineages, and what we're not talking about, is that it can actually take 2 to 12 years. Redbird, as I'm saying this, a cardinal literally just flew right up in the tree next to me, which is insane, and I love it. Oh, there's two. Okay, there's two. There's a female and a male. Beautiful. What we're not teaching our women, what we're not sharing with our women and our girls, is that it can actually take 2 to 12 years after menarche, which is your first period, for your cycles to regulate. And so by putting girls on birth control as young as 13, 15, I've even heard someone say they've gone on birth control as young as 10 years old, because girls are starting their periods way sooner than they need to be, way sooner than they should be. And this is all based on hormones, and I'm not going to get into the science right now, but that's just a fact. Girls as young as 10 years old are getting put on birth control for their menstrual cycles. But they don't realize, their mothers don't realize, their doctors don't realize, because doctors are not taught. Doctors are not taught all of the things that we think they're taught. They're taught how to prescribe a pill for you, and they're taught that if the pill doesn't work, that they can do a surgery. And if neither of those options work, then you're going to be on a medication for the rest of your life. That is just how the medical system works nowadays. And if you don't see that at this point, I hope you see that eventually in this lifetime. I hope that you see that before the collapse of our system. And I don't mean that to be scary, but I hope you awaken to that fact, that the medical system is not in it for your best interest. Big pharma is not in it for your best interest. They are in it to make you a patient for life. They are in it to continue to consume your money. They are in it to continue to make money off of you. And so what they're not telling you about birth control, about these medications that you're taking, birth control specifically, What they're not telling you is that when you go on it before your cycles have had a chance to regulate themselves, you are stunting your hormonal growth, the maturation of your hormones, the maturation of your cycle. You are stunting that. And so when you go on birth control at such a young age, your cycles are not actually regulating on the pill. They are not, the pill cannot regulate your menstrual cycle because it shuts it down. And so by shutting down our menstrual cycle, we are shutting down our intuition. We are shutting down our embodiment. We are shutting down what makes us women. The bleed that you are experiencing on hormonal birth control is a withdrawal bleed. And what I mean by that is the first 3 weeks of the birth control pill are a synthetic version of the hormones in our body. They are not the actual hormones in our body. And so we are shutting down the natural flow of hormones in our body and then pumping our body full of synthetic hormones. And then for that last week of the pill pack, it's sugar pills. So we are completely taking away all of that, replacing it with nothing. And then our bodies are bleeding. Our bodies have to shed because throughout the month, our lining is building up. It has to have somewhere to go. But without ovulation, we are not truly releasing anything. We are not truly allowing ourselves to have a full period. I know when I was on birth control from the time I was 15 until I was 20, I had the lightest periods I've ever had. They were 3 days long. They were pink. And if you don't know, the color of your blood can tell you so much about what's happening with your body. Our periods are actually a report card for our bodies. They are the end of the month, like, hey, this is what's been going on. The color, the texture, the length, the heaviness, the flow itself. Is it sticky? Is it flowy? Is it dark red? Is it pink? Is it brown? All of these things can tell us so much about ourselves if we just pay attention. But when we're on something like the birth control pill and we're shutting down our cycle completely, we actually are not getting that report card. We actually are not getting that information about ourselves because our bodies are not cycling. And so the pill cannot regulate your menstrual cycle. The pill cannot get rid of your acne. The pill cannot get rid of your cramps. It will make you feel better in the meantime because it is managing your symptoms. It is symptom management. It is a band-aid for your symptoms, but your symptoms come from a greater root cause. Your symptoms come from something else. And doctors are just not equipped at getting down to the root cause of really anything. They can tell you that it's stress. They can tell you that it's, you know, they can tell you what it is, but they can't tell you where it came from. They can't tell you where it started. And because we are not in tune with ourselves and we are disembodied and disconnected from ourselves, we don't know where it started. But we can backtrack through holistic health, through nutrition, through lifestyle changes, through herbs, through emotional healing, through connection with ourselves, connection with nature, and we can get to the root cause and actually heal whatever it is that's going on in our bodies. Whether it's gut issues, whether it's period issues, whether it's anything. We are able to heal. Our bodies are able to heal themselves if we just allow them to. I think that's my rant for the day. I think that's my episode for today. I think I just wanted to kind of share my perspective on some of the things that I've been experiencing in my own life without even really speaking to it, because this just kind of helps me process my thoughts in a way that allows me to see where I am with what's going on, how I'm handling that. And also just reassuring myself and confirming that I am handling it the right way, that I am going about it the right way, that I do know what I'm talking about, that I do understand in a way that the people around me just don't. And I'm okay with that. Life is beautiful. Life is magical. Connection with ourselves is the ultimate healing. Connection with nature is the ultimate healing. And connection with ourselves through nature is enlightenment. So I hope you enjoyed this episode today. I hope it wasn't too far-fetched or hippie woo-woo or yeah. I'm really glad to be here with you guys. I am so grateful to be sharing this information with you. I'm so grateful to know this information. I'm so grateful to be here in this moment speaking these words with my little microphone and my dog in my lap. So thank you for listening. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube, and there will be more coming very soon. I love you.